Today we're taking a look at the prices and contents of the three 40k starter sets and having a bit of a talk about whether I think they're a good deal. Hello and welcome back to Auspex Tactics for a bit of a buying value discussion on the new 40k starter sets. With Indomitus come and gone, and the phasing out of Dark Imperium, No Fear and First Strike, these three starter boxes will now be some of the most common sets that people use to get into Warhammer 40k. In the video I'll just talk a little bit about some general principles when thinking about which one to get, the contents and prices of each of the kits, and a bit more of a focused look at each of them, comparing them to their previous incarnations, and talking about what you actually get for your money. So first of all, what are they and how much do they cost? There are three different levels to the 40k starter sets now: Recruit Edition, Elite Edition and Command Edition. As well as their main contents, they also have some dice, some transfers for the Space Marines, some range rulers, a gaming mat, and a sort of introduction booklet. The Recruit Edition is the smallest, costing £32.50 or $50, and it contains a Lieutenant, 5 Assault Intercessors, the Royal Warden, 10 Necron Warriors and 3 Scarab Swarms. The Elite version is an expansion on this. It costs £65 or $99, so pretty much double the previous one, and for that you get an additional 3 Outriders on the Space Marine side and 3 Scorpec Destroyers and a Plasma Sight on the Necron side. In place of the Lieutenant and Royal Warden, these are traded out for a Primaris Captain and a Necron Overlord. Finally, there's the Command Edition, which is £105 or $165. This one has no difference to the actual miniature contents of Elite for the Space Marine or Necrons, but it does come with the 4 core rules of 40k, a set of terrain including some ruins and pipes and things, and it upgrades the gaming mats to a cardboard gaming board that's 22 by 30 inches across. I would genuinely see them as a good way to break into the game at various different levels, or could be a good way to get some decent deals on either miniatures or terrain, depending on what exactly you're after model-wise. I would kind of see each one as an upgrade to the previous box. The Recruit Edition will just get you some models on the table. If you want a few more fancy units, then Elite might tempt you, and if you want the book, terrain and board, then you'd have to gauge whether or not the extra cost of Command is worth it. I'd bear in mind that the miniatures do come from 2 different armies, so while it still might be a very decent deal compared with the numbers of miniatures that you get in other sets, if you were just only interested in the Necrons for example and had no interest in the Space Marines, then unless you could trade or resell the other half of the box, then it still might not be very good value to you. If you do have a chance to buy through a discount retailer that does Games Workshop's products for a little bit less, then of course that will save you money. If you're interested, then I do have an Element Games affiliate link down in the description below, which is one of the discount retailers in the UK if you're interested. Otherwise, if it was more just some of the individual models or units that you were after, then I'm sure we'll see plenty of the individual units being sold on the internet in droves. Particularly, I suspect that the characters and the intercessors and necrons will be quite common, just if people don't want too many duplicates of the same thing. So if you're just after a few of the units, then it might make more sense to go and check out eBay for them. If we actually look into each of the sets in turn, first of all we have the Recruit Edition, £32.50 or $50. And it seems to me that with a fairly reasonable price, it could be a pretty low investment way of getting some new players to get some models on the table and see if they might be interested in 40k. We've already mentioned the miniatures, including the Lieutenant and Assault Intercessors, and the Royal Warden and 10 Warriors and 3 Scarabs, and to be honest these all seem like fairly core and useful units to their armies, though perhaps the Royal Warden might be a bit niched in terms of the buff that he provides to his warriors. I think it's quite helpful the way that they've actually fielded the unit in a full size that you could field it in a normal game of 40k. In the First Strike box that this is essentially replaced, you got some small half-formed units rather than full 5-man or 10-man squads. The set seems to be pretty good value both in terms of miniatures and points that you get in the box for the price. You get 20 miniatures for £32.50 or £1.60 per model, which if you compare it to a standard box of Primaris Intercessors from Games Workshop, that's more like £3.50, so over half as good value. And it's roughly the same sort of value as the First Strike box that it replaced, which was pretty decent as it was easy build kits at an already discounted rate. It's quite nice that you actually get some characters included in the box as well, as Games Workshop does tend to charge a premium for them if they're ever sold separately. In terms of points value, you get 430 points worth of models, 185 points of Space Marines, and 245 of Necrons. Pounds per point is actually really good value. It's only £7.55 for every 100 points of models that you get on the table, which is far better than the Intercessors where you're paying far more for 100 points, and it's better than the previous First Strike box. The balance is largely tipped by the 2 character miniatures though. Overall, I'd say that this is pretty much similar or better value to First Strike, and really quite a cheap way of getting miniatures on the table, particularly if you have interest in both armies or are able to swap and trade. Next up we have the Elite Edition, which is £65 or $99. So it is worth that you're paying basically double what you will be paying for a Recruit Edition box. You kind of have to decide whether those Scorpec destroyers and outriders and some slightly upgraded characters are worth double the price. I think it was actually really quite a nice touch that you split up the Indomitus captain and lieutenant between the two boxes, rather than just getting one of the same in each. It means that should you want to, you could potentially pick up both the Recruit and Elite edition, and you'd get two different characters in both of them, so that there's a bit of advantage in taking both. If two people were starting 40k, I could easily see people getting a Recruit and Elite box, and then splitting the contents of each army between the two of them, giving each player a small force with two different characters, two different troops, and either a unit of bikes or Scorpec destroyers. Not too surprisingly, this one doesn't do quite as well in terms of pound per miniature compared with the Recruit box, but that's naturally due to the fact that these Scorpec destroyers and bikes are far bigger models than most of the others. They're both quite iconic units, and in particular those Outriders are pretty massive, so add a bit more value above and beyond just the raw price per miniature, I think. In any case, for the amount you pay, you're still getting a better price per miniature than getting a standard box of Intercessors, but it's not quite as good as the excellent Space Marines vs Death Guard kits that this replaced, no fear. That one got you 31 models for £50, so £1.70 per miniature. In terms of points value per pound, this one does a fair bit better thanks to those big models. It's £8.90 for every 100 points that you get in the box. It is slightly worse than the Recruit edition, but not by all that much. It's still significantly better than buying Intercessors from the multi-part plastic kits, but it doesn't really come anywhere close to the sheer value that No Fear offered, where using 9th edition points, you'd now be getting 935 points for £50. Overall though, I would still say that the Elite edition is pretty good value. You're getting plenty of decent miniatures and lots of points for a fairly low price, at least compared with other Games Workshop boxes. It is a bit of a shame that it's not quite as good value as No Fear was though, which was one of the best value boxes that Games Workshop produced. Finally we come to the Command edition for £105 or $165, and the Command box is a bit of a different proposition to the others, as it's not really about the miniatures as much as it is about the other accessories. You get just the same miniatures as the Elite box for £65 or $99, so you basically have to decide whether or not the extra £50 or $66 are worth the extra investment for the rulebook and the terrain that you get. I would note that the copy of the rulebook isn't the same as the copy of the core book that Games Workshop sells separately. It does have all the rules for playing the game of 40k in it, but it is a bit of a slimmed down tome without the background or miniature gallery sections in the book. It's pretty much just focused on allowing you to play the game. Personally, I'd be kind of fine to have this one instead myself, just because I'm pretty familiar with the background of the 40k universe, so I wouldn't tend to read it all that much personally. The core book, when sold separately, does cost you £40 or $65, so if you could save on buying it, then that's quite a significant saving. The terrain pieces are you get 4 ruins, 2 big ones and 2 small ones, 2 sets of pipelines, and a generator thing. These are all in theory push fit and can be assembled without glue to get some terrain on the battlefield nice and quickly. Games Workshop does tend to charge quite a bit for terrain separately, so it is again a significant amount of value to the box, and if you aren't all that interested in having the terrain at home for your own collection, I'm sure it wouldn't be hard to find someone to take it off your hands for a reasonable price. This one also gives you a bit of an upgrade with the plastic gaming mat, and gives you a durable cardboard gaming board instead that's 22 by 30 inches in size. It is a bit small for most real gamers, to be honest. You would need multiple of these to actually be able to play 40k properly. Games Workshop is selling the terrain set and the board separately at £55 or $90, but I wouldn't necessarily say that means that it's amazing value to get this set, as you might not have bought that otherwise. Overall, I must say I'm not personally quite as enthused by the Command set myself. For it to be a good deal, you really need to have every single part of it be useful to you, or for you to be able to trade or resell it. It's really not bad as a one-stop shop to get into the game and get some small games going, but it does presume that you don't already have the rulebook, you are interested in acquiring more terrain, and you can both use the Space Marines and Necrons. If it's primarily the miniatures that you're after, then you might just be better off getting the Elite set instead. I haven't done any sort of direct comparison to Dark Imperium, as it's not really quite the same prospect to be honest, when you've got terrain and a board instead of quite a lot of miniatures. And it's kind of a shame not to have the option just to buy an absolutely huge box of loads of miniatures as an alternative to this. If you are entirely new to the game though, and willing to drop over £100 on something, then this is pretty much a one-stop shop to get you set up in 40k. So overall, I think in their own way they are all good value. I'd argue that the Recruit and Elite versions are pretty similar in terms of value for getting miniatures. Recruit is pretty much similar to First Strike, though Elite isn't quite as good as the No Fear box, and I wouldn't say that either of them were quite as good as Indomitus in terms of the amount of cool miniatures and characters that you got, or in terms of pounds per point. The Command set I'd argue might be slightly less good value. I would personally only get it if I definitely wanted the contents of the Elites box, and then I also either wanted the core rules or that terrain set from Games Workshop. Otherwise it might just make sense to buy smaller amounts of things separately. So I hope you found the video useful, and if you have any other thoughts about value of the boxes that I missed, please let us know down in the comments below, or just which one you're thinking about getting and why. If you've enjoyed, then feel free to subscribe to Auspex Tactics, where we'll keep regular 40k content coming out pretty much every day. And if you'd like to help support the channel, I'd just like to mention my Element Games affiliate link, which is down in the video description below. Element Games is a discount retailer in the UK that stocks 40k products, and basically if you buy anything from it after clicking the link, a small amount goes to Auspex Tactics without costing you any more. If you were thinking about pre-ordering any of these, or buying something else, if you fancied helping the channel out, then you could click on the link and do that through them. They've always been reliable whenever I've bought things from them, so I don't hesitate to recommend them. I also have a very similar link for Amazon in the USA and Canada down in the video description as well. That works in a pretty similar way. If you click it and buy anything at all off Amazon, whether it's these sets or something completely different, again a small amount goes to help support the channel. Again, it can just be a way to say thank you if you'd like, on purchases that you were planning to make anyway. In any case, a massive thank you for listening, and I'll hope to see you guys next time.